Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Hello and welcome to a brand new week of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us in as we have Lon Strickler here for phantomsandmonsters.com and his little ditty that he does every month called Strange Days. Dirty Filth is here with another great cartoon. But the best part about tonight, we have all of you. We got Race Fan in the gold medal position. Hippie Deidre and her Birkenstocks taking home a silver. And Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing a bronze medal tonight. Hi, Kathy Evans. Hi, Miriam. And Robert Lamoth. How you doing? Brown Dwarf, Pony Pong, Eternity Eternal. Good to see you all. Dragonfly, Lee the Bee. Little Timmy James, he'll be on in hour 3 with the UFO report. A.A. Ron Baca, thanks for coming on in as we continue on with roll call here. Hi, Operation Shutdown. Lisa Smith is here. Lisa Smith will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Mama Catherine, I hope you're doing well. I hope your house is okay from that horrible hurricane. I love you, and you've been on my mind, and I hope everything is good for you. Let me know if you're back home, okay? I think you are, but let me know if you're back home. T-Bone, my man, how are you? So we continue on with roll call here tonight. And who's next on our list? Captain K-Rod. How are you doing? Good to see you. Continuing on with our roll call, there's W. David Page. What's up, my man? And Frankie B is here. Frankie B will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Digger Dog, thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call here. Who's next? Well, let's take a look. It's JSCO. Thank you for coming on in. Human Carl is here, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We love you. J Truth Seekers, Terrence Wills, how you guys doing? Thank you for coming on in. And Woo-Poo, what is happening? Yes, Pete Rose died today at the age of 83. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Never mind that he bet on baseball, okay? But with his hits and everything, he should be in the Hall of Fame. It's a travesty that he isn't. And Frankie, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you very, very much. John Jackson in Flat 6, good to see you here. Mel WD40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want that rigidness. You guys know it doesn't feel good. We need this show to run smooth. Lon wants it running smooth, so we must lube for tonight's show, and Mel's taking care of that. Oob to Joe's Main, you've got aliens. Yes, you do. Philip, how you doing? And Algaray over on Twitch did 127 hammer curls in under 2 minutes, all to prepare for any possible encounter with Mothman. Guy is jacked for tonight. Eric O'Dion, how you doing? Nice to see you. As we continue on with our roll call here. Hi, Kurt M. Thanks for coming on in. Bill Sardellis, good to have you back. Gory Tiger, Guy Calgary, nice to see you both. And let's see who else is here. Let's see here. Christine Lynn, Richard Minnick, thanks for coming on in. Hi, Rock and Rory, Nina Williams, Matthew Goodka. Good to have you all here. And Richard, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. Very much appreciate the love and support, my man. Thank you very, very much. And who else is here? Scrolling on down. Hi, Pam Harris. And let's see. Let's get the radio side going. Hey, Guy, what's happening? Guy is here. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Lon Strickler's Strange Days happens tonight as we are in roll call right now, saying hello to everybody in our audience. We'll get going in just a few seconds' time. And who is next on our list? Yennefer with a soft J. Good to see you. Adam Robbins, thanks for coming on in. And what's happening here? Scroll on down. We are caught up. Remember, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Make sure you check it on out. We'll get to that momentarily. Throw those horns up, everyone. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out, Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our strike as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Oh, we got a great show planned for you tonight. It's all about phantoms. It's all about monsters. From phantomsandmonsters.com. Lon Strickler is here with a great storytelling adventure that we're going to go on. Then in hour number 3, we have Swamp Dweller to kick off the third hour with another spooky story. Then Tim James will be in for the UFO report. From phantomsandmonsters.com, Lon Strickler comes in near the end of every month to talk to us about the weird and strange occurrences and sightings and happenings that people are having, just like you and me. Lon is an author. You can find all of his books at phantomsandmonsters.com. He's written about, probably 70, 80 books. I know it's not that many, but man, is there a plethora of books out there that he has journaled over the years with people seeing everything from Mothman to Dogman to UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, and every little critter in between. He's one of the best in the field. He's done television. He's been broadcast all over in documentaries. And every month he comes in here to say hello to the Spaced Out Radio audience. Lon Strickler, it's always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm sore, man.
Yeah, I know you are.
So for our listening audience, I've taken up the hobby of hunting. Now, I lived in my area for about, 9 years now. And everybody that I hang out with hunts. So I decided to take up hunting this year. I got my firearms license, legally, of course. And I decided that, you know what, we're going to go out. So we went out yesterday. And sometimes I forget two things, Lon. I forget that, number one, I'm not young anymore. And number two, I forget that my knees don't work as well as they used to because I've torn the ACLs and MCLs in both knees. And as you get older, your knees kind of stiffen up a little bit. So, old Davey here, we were hunting grouse. And I saw a grouse. I got my buddy Little Marky Spender to stop the truck. I jump out of the truck and this grouse is hiding behind this knoll right on the other side of a ditch. So what do? I'm like, okay, I got to go over and see if I could see that grouse. Because I didn't hear it fly off. So I put my right foot into the ditch or on the other side of the ditch, and I go to push off my right foot, and my left knee decided, hey, I'm not going to work today. So as all my momentum is going forward, my left leg decided to stay in the same spot. And all of a sudden, as I'm now falling down onto the berm, not getting wet in the ditch, by the way, which is good, I hear pop, pop from my left groin muscle. And you know when you all of a sudden hurt something really bad and you get that instant sickness that you're going to vomit? Yeah, I had that happen. So here I am trying to get comfortable with everything. And you don't really know how much you actually use your groin muscles. Okay, and get the perversion. We're not talking about, the Franks and beans here, okay? Get that out of your mind. But the groin muscles, I injured my right groin muscle about 20 years ago playing baseball. And I forgot how much a groin injury hurts, man. It's one of the worst, Lon. It's horrible. It's one of the worst.
Yeah, I've had it too. I know it.
I don't know. So I'm on the mend, getting everything going. And either way, the show must go on. We can't take a break here just because old Davey had a little injury, but I figured I'd update everybody on what's going on. But that's okay.
I bet when you screamed out, the bird took off, didn't it?
I think, you know what? The silly part about it is, I can tell you this. When I was driving by, that bird and I made eye contact.
Really?
And I could tell you, I think it went, uh-oh, I better get out of here beforehand. So I don't think it was the bird. I have every inkling that it was me trying to act 30 years old again or 20 years old again. And this is what happens. But I'll tell you, a little bit of ice, a little bit of heat, and a little bit of SOR makes it feel better.
Yeah, well, like I said, I told you I had the same thing. It took me about a month and a half to get over it. So they're not fun.
Oh, I get you. And yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It really is what it is. So what have you been up to, my man, besides chasing down monsters?
I don't know. It's been kind of slow. I mean, the past month and a half, of course, I'm getting after doing the TV show and that episode coming up. We've been getting some pretty decent sightings, but maybe not as much as we thought we would. But then again, who knows? But we're supposed to have a tranche of reports coming eventually from Netflix. So we'll see. See what kind of reports we got. But no, it's been here and there, but it hasn't really been busy.
Why do you think everything's kind of slowed down? Because a month or two ago, you were telling us about you couldn't believe the amount of reports that were coming in.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. Even the fact that not necessarily getting reports that are current, I mean, even old cases that people decided to come forward with and send me something, I'm just not getting a whole lot of that at all. I mean, it's enough to keep me going, but it's not a lot that we've been getting reports that we're going to go out on out on location and do investigations. We just haven't really had a whole lot to do investigations with.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think though that this comes in waves with sightings and with with all sorts of different people experiencing things?
Yeah, you get late in the summer, it does kind of tail off. I don't know if it's just less people out looking around or doing things, but as soon as the weather breaks, it'll start picking up again. Fall is usually pretty busy. Fall and spring, early summer are probably the busiest time for us. People are getting out and doing different things, and the weather's decent. It's not stinking hot or real cold out. So, yeah, it might be okay. And, the weather all in all has been pretty hot around here for the last couple of years. So, we had another hot summer. So, and of course, with storms and rain and everything else, it's just been crazy.
Better you than me. You're not going to believe it. I was out in the forest yesterday before I got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we went into an area where it was snowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw the video.
It's September, man. Stop snowing in September. I'm not ready for that kind of dress just yet. Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah, I know.
Terrible.
I'm not a snow guy either.
My buddy Guy, though, is all excited because what happens around here is the minute it snows, all of the rabbits in that area automatically change color from dark to white. And now for the next month or two, they're going to stick out like a sore thumb in the forest, which is a big uh-oh for for them, because the predators are going to have a good time and an easy time seeing them now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, you're right. It I used to do a lot of hunting, and yeah, I know. It's you were talking about getting hurt. God, it's funny. I got hurt hunting one time too, but I got hurt the wrong way. I used to go hunting with my grandmother. And I get this. This is when I was a kid. And my grandparents used to take me hunting on Saturdays. Well, my grandmother, she was, she was from down in North Carolina. She used to just think Beverly Hillbillies, Granny and Beverly Hillbillies. She was raised with a gun. And we used to go squirrel hunting together. And I was out in the woods with her. And normally we would spread out pretty far. And for whatever reason, I don't remember why, she was right behind me for some reason. And we were watching this hickory tree, and she took a bead on one of those squirrels coming out of a nest, and about this far from my ear, she let loose on that 20 gauge. And I was deaf for a month. I couldn't believe she did it, but she did it. But yeah, that was something I never forgot. Then of course, I had a buddy of mine. We used to go pheasant hunting a lot, and he was loading his gun one day, and I don't know what the hell he was doing. We were all standing behind the car, loading our guns up, and he lets off a shot into the gravel right between all of us. So yeah, it was stuff you don't forget, but it doesn't take much to get hurt.
My goodness. You got to be careful, man.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you something. I was waiting to ask you this because one of the topics you and I really haven't ever got into is mimicking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my buddy Guy had a situation a few years ago where he was out hunting and he actually heard my voice calling him into the trees, saying, "Help me, Mike, help me. I'm in here. Come on in here." Whatever it was said. And then just a couple of weeks ago, my buddy Mark was hunting about 8 hours away in the Kootenays, and he was trying to call in some elk. And he said about 50 yards up and into the trees, there was something almost like a humanoid type voice mimicking his call right back down to him, almost like it was making fun of him. And his hunting buddy who he was with was like, that's got to be people. That's got to be people. And he's like, Bud, we're in the middle of nowhere. Okay. There is no way that is a human. There's no humans around here right now. The only place that they could have come from is from a campsite about 5 miles down the road. So they went and checked the campsite afterwards. There was nobody there. This mimicking happened twice. And he said it was a bad mimic, man, but it sounded very, very human. Now, for people who are city dwellers sitting back listening to us talk about this, the easy answer is that's a person. That's a person. Now, my buddy Little Marky Spender just happens to jump into the chat room. You telling stories about me again? He types in. Lon, what do you think that is, this mimicking thing?
It could be a lot of things, but I do get a lot of those reports. I have heard people talk about Bigfoot mimicking on occasion. I've had people tell me that when they have had encounters with the crawlers, the pale crawlers, humanoids, that there's some mimicking going on, not necessarily coming from them, but they do hear it. Spiritual, possibly. You know, I have heard in different situations people talking about mimicking, and I have reported it. I've seen several reports like that. A lot of times it's people hunting for whatever reason. Somebody will be in a stand pretty far up, and all of a sudden they'll hear the voice of somebody who they're hunting with, and it's coming from not too far away, and you know, it just throws them off, and they're trying to figure out what it is. But that mimicking phenomena does occur. Now, I guess it depends on the situation, but I've heard it with all three: spirits, crawlers, and Bigfoot.
I think it was a Bigfoot.
Might have been a Bigfoot.
I mean, they're in a Bigfoot area. The Kootenays, the Kootenays of the British Columbia Southeast is very well known for their Sasquatch sightings. And in fact, Kokanee beer, which is brewed in that area, back in the 80s and 90s, did a famous run of commercials where they even used Renee DeHinden in the commercials because their mascot was a Sasquatch.
Mm.
Okay, and on every bottle to this day of Kokanee beer, you can find the Sasquatch on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. It may very well have been a Sasquatch. Yep.
The humanoid type sound that it would make in Mark's case, do you think then that being as close as it was, like 50 yards away, hiding in the trees, a hunter, they called out? Like when you're hunting and you hear people, you call out because there is a safety etiquette that goes along with that.
Yeah.
And they got nothing.
Yeah.
There's no voices, no laughter, no nothing. And for any human to be in that area, they would have had to have passed Mark and his buddy. And they never did.
Mm-hmm.
Mark says in the chat room, 40 plus years in the bush, and I have never heard anything like this. There was no one within 30 kilometers of us.
Yeah, well, it does happen. I mean, you know, I've had several instances where people have said that. And, I mean, you know, from what the location they would tell me it would be at or the situation, I think most of them are probably one of the three I mentioned, you know, but it could have, your case, it could have very well been a Bigfoot.
Now let's get back to my buddy Mike, who heard my voice.
Mm-hmm.
in the forest, and I was nowhere near him. I was actually at home preparing for this show.
Mm-hmm.
Not this one tonight, but for a show that night.
Mm-hmm.
So I was probably as the crow flies, a 20-minute flight or 20 minutes away. Driving wise, probably 45 minutes away when this happened. Little people, forest
Well,
dwellers.
If the voice was like yours, it could have been spiritual. I mean, it could have been some type of entity, for whatever reason. And the reason I say that is, I don't know what abilities certain entities, certain spiritual entities, certain energies have that allows them to do that. But for whatever reason, they will mimic and someone or a voice of another human. And a lot of times, just from what I believe the person who is actually hearing it through perception or certain perception takes it to sound like someone they really know. I'm not saying it's necessarily the same pitch or voice of the voice they're familiar with, of a friend or family, but I think their perception kind of gives them that impression of that's what they're hearing.
Is there danger to that?
I guess it could be if you get lured into something that you shouldn't be getting lured into. Get put into a situation where you're kind of, you're looking for this thing and you get yourself in a bind somehow, or this thing attacks or whatever. I don't know what the motivation is behind it or why they do that. Yeah, I guess in the right situation, it could be dangerous.
Have you ever heard of people getting attacked or disappearing by some of these mimicking type creatures?
Not that I know of. Not that even where people have talked about going possibly into a time slip or into a portal or something like that. I can't really think of any where voices were involved with it.
It's still scary to think.
It is scary. Yeah,
Like,
it is scary.
I don't know how I would feel about that, being put in that situation where all of a sudden, I'm hearing a friend's voice, or I'm hearing something, mimicking whatever it may be. Like that just feels very uncomfortable to me, man.
Yeah, I can see where it would be very uncomfortable. I know it would probably freak me out. I've never had that experience. Look, I've heard a lot of different things just because of my abilities, but as far as hearing a voice that I recognize just out of the blue like that, or in an area where it shouldn't be going on, yeah, that would kind of freak me out.
Do you think, though, that there is some sort of malevolence to this?
Could be.
It's not trying to get us out of an area, or trying to get us to, maybe suck us into doing something that we shouldn't.
I think in the situation with a cryptid, you may be going into one of their hunting areas, or an area where they're trying to protect a family or something, that they do that just to shock you and get you to move on. Now, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as malevolence go, I don't know.
Lon Strickler in Strange Days. We'll continue after the break here momentarily. Lon's website is phantomsandmonsters.com. You can get any of his books on his website or on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. He's one of the best. He's got a great beard and hair combination, which is why we continue to bring Lon back. When we return return, we'll get into some stories from phantomsandmonsters.com. We'll be right back. All right, we're clear. There we go. There we go. That was a fast half hour, my man.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, you know, this year has been going by so quick. My God.
Tell me about it.
It's crazy.
Don't like that.
No. It does seem to go quicker as you get older.
Right? Right? I don't like that. Don't like it at all. Let's see here. What else we got going on? Dirty Filth, how you doing?
You say he's drawing a lizard.
Let's see what he's up to. Oh, he's back into the Lizardville. Mm-hmm. Apparently, we should not prepare for a blob sighting tonight because blob has decided to sit on the ventilation system because Filth turned the furnace on tonight for the first time of the year. Well, the first time since summer or since winter last year or earlier this year, whatever that is. Oh. My buddy Mike says, I knew you were at home as I had asked you if you wanted to come. That was when he heard my voice in the forest. Good morning, Body Tech. Tuning us in from London, England. Fellow Commonwealther. Vanessa, I would totally get into my bathtub right now. I just don't know if I would get out. Yep. Oh, groin injuries are terrible. Hi, the Ferret. How are you? Let's see. Oh, yes. Where are we here? Okay, we got, let me just see here. We got about 2 minutes, Lon.
Okay.
Where's your cat tonight?
He's over by the window sleeping.
Usually he's bothering you while we're doing this.
No, he's been bothering me less and less as he's gotten older. He really has. When I first started doing radio shows and stuff, man, he used to bug the hell out of me. But he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it much, especially now. I mean, this time of night, he's going to be sleeping.
Right. Get that back up there. Go like that. And
yeah, I got a call from my second cousin in North Carolina today.
Oh, how they doing?
They got messed up. They nobody get in and out of where they're living at. They live right at the foothills of Smokies, and my other cousin, he lives near Asheville. They got hit hard, but the roads going into their property, the ones over by the mountains, you can't get in.
Right.
And they're not, they don't have electricity or anything.
Hold on 1 second here, buddy. Thank you, Lala, T-Bone, Richard, and Frankie. Here we go. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate you tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go with Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com. It is one of the best times of this month. We get Lon in here to talk about some strange, weird stories that he has had brought up to his website. Lon, you can find all of Lon's books on his website. Once again, phantomsandmonsters.com, or on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Lon, welcome back.
Good to be back, Dave.
I almost got tongue-tied there. I was speaking so fast. Radio 101, do not talk too fast. You will stumble. You will stumble. Oh, the lack of professionalism in this broadcast tonight. My goodness. You have a weird story right on the front cover of phantomsandmonsters.com tonight. And it is about abductee describes green dog-like humanoids. I'm going to share this with our audience here because this one already is creeping me out, Lon.
Okay.
Creeping out. So it says, "Hello, Lon. I come from a family of abductees." Well, if that isn't an opening sentence that's going to, make you fill your britches up, I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm going to continue on here. "Hello, Lon. I come from a family of abductees. During my life, I have had several experiences, starting with a large hexagonal UFO, the kind that blends it into the night sky that you can only make out the outline as it cloaks itself. Later, I experienced shining lights coming through my ceiling, and eventually I began experiencing vivid memories of piloting a ship and being of an alien race, traveling to unique worlds, some of which I called home. Over the years, I have had many experiences of being educated aboard a ship in human form, and I was always a very active, questioning, and disruptive participant. I am always trying to get people on the ships to open their minds up to new ideas, thinking differently, and also to get off the ships and onto worlds. Most recently, I experienced being on a ship once more. I was led through a corridor by a hybrid scientist. He was mostly human in appearance, but with wrinkled, thick gray skin and wearing a lab coat. We passed beside a small group of dark-skinned humanoid dog-like people. I feel bad calling them that. They have a name. I just can't remember it. There were about 12 or so of them. They were good-looking, not quite human, but were so familiar, like a very close relative of human beings with something different about them that was jarring. They remind me of Australian Aboriginal people in complexion, features such as eyebrows, eye shape, smile, lips, and hair color and texture. But they had sharp canine teeth, dark dog-like noses, and the men had a lot of facial hair. The men and women wore animal skin clothing. The women were mostly of older age, wore long cloaks, and were hunched over and huddled together as they seemed to be feeling cold. The men more like loincloths, and were of varying ages. The scientist was very nervous in proximity to these people and tried to hurry me past them down the hallway. He felt they were wild animals. In a telepathic environment, you just know how others feel. They don't have to say it or explain their feelings, they just are what they are. I was approached by one of the men very insistently. He came very close into my physical space and he flashed his eyes at me urgently. They glowed bright green like cat's eyes do. He was very passionate, animated, and intense, and I was attracted to him. He smelled nice. He told me telepathically that he was lonely, that his people wanted to get off this ship, that genetically they were dying and had a very small gene pool, and that they needed to start meeting people. It wasn't just to reproduce, of course. They were very social beings. He had a lot to say and felt that I could help explain it to the scientist because he wasn't listening. The scientist wanted to push the man for being disobedient, and I was appalled. I had a very good feeling about them culturally as a group and felt that they would fit in very well on Earth. But both the dogmen and the scientists received my feelings of the matter in a telepathic environment, and it's all pretty obvious when someone hears you. The scientist was surprised at my reaction. This was another experience of dealing with gray hybrid humans and sort of shaking my head at their oblivious ways. They know so much, but there is a lot they don't seem to understand. I was definitely more interested in the people in the corridor than whatever hybrid scientist interested in the people in the corridor than whatever the hybrid scientist was taking me to do. I don't remember anything about after that point. Later, I was unnerved by my attraction to a non-human, but I guess it was close enough. Oh my. Where do you even start with this one?
Yeah, well, I see the same thing a lot of times when I read some of these, but it's interesting some of the varieties of alien humanoids or whatever it is people run across in these abduction cases. But I don't know. You know, that one came to me late today, and I just put it up there on the blog. I didn't really think much about it, but yeah, you do get a few weird ones once in a while.
There is a couple of things that I know Grant Cameron has focused on, and that is people who fly the craft, people who claim to see other species of people, the hybrid scientists, which makes sense. There's a lot that actually makes sense in this person's story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the themes are very similar to a lot of other ones I've read. And I'm not saying it's so prevalent that somebody picks it up from another story and makes a false story. But I think from just, many times reading things like this, I can pretty well tell if they imagine they did actually encounter something like this. And this one's pretty detailed. So some of them have much less detail or very vague, but this one seemed to have a lot of different things into it. But it does follow a lot of different themes.
Is there anything like in stories like this that stand out to you just to make them seem real or consistent with others?
Well, I think the most telling part of it is when it gets specific enough to talk about their interaction with them. That seems to be one part of it where you can really see that they sense that they did see something or did have an encounter with something. Like I said, I get a lot of reports that are just so vague. It's just really hard for me to even use. But when they get specific like that and put a lot of detail into it and actually put a lot of thought into it, like, where they feel it's important to make it part of the story or part of their experience. Yeah, and I haven't talked to this person, so I may go back and talk to them. But a lot of times, those really detailed stories either come to me by telephone or, you know, as opposed to being an email, because they want to make sure they tell me in person, especially abduction cases.
The fact that she was being able to be so detailed about what she remembered about being on that craft,
Mm-hmm.
does that surprise you at all?
Mm-mm. No, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, some people are actually given the opportunity to see a lot and to experience a lot. I mean, there have been experiencers who have had very little um, to tell as far as what they experienced. All they do know is they went somewhere, um, something happened, but as far as details go, they can't pinpoint it. Unfortunately, a lot of times after many years, it for whatever reason it will come back to them. Um, the recall on abduction cases is pretty high. I mean, especially after a long period of time. Um, but it's not really that unusual for them for an experiencer to really go into detail.
When you have cases like this from experiencers who say they've flown the craft,
Mm-hmm.
are there any similarities that you have learned about this? Because that's pretty extraordinary.
Um. Well, the one caveat I believe is that the beings uh that they're interacting with are not malevolent. They don't seem to don't seem to be abducting people for a specific reason. Uh, for whatever reason, they want the person to experience it, to remember it. Um, and I do occasionally get those. Not very often, but I do occasionally get those. And another thing is too. A lot of times with experiencers, they sense that it's something that they recognize. As with this story, some of the beings that they have interacted with seem similar or seem familiar to them. Um, and after a while, many of these people will come back and say, after thinking about it and such, I do believe that I have gone through this before. So maybe it's something they did multiple times, but they just don't remember all the times or don't remember any of them unless one particular encounter stands above the rest and kind of sparks their memory.
Now, I don't know this person who wrote this. I know you don't know them either.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I always kind of worry about at times with stories like this is when people have too much recall.
Yeah.
Like I know people who have an immense, incredible amount of recall. And then I know others like myself where you maybe only get snippets of each one. You don't get a lot of full detail. I think only about twice I've had like real full detail of what's gone on. Do you concern yourself with that when somebody is a little bit too detailed?
You got to be wary of it. I mean, people do embellish on encounters. I mean, some people just like to display their creative writing abilities and start putting a whole bunch of stuff in there. Normally when I'm talking to someone about an experience like this, you can kind of tell when they're trying to embellish but most times they don't. I mean, they really stick to a certain part of it in particular that fascinates them or has them wondering about what they had gone through, or they have questions about it. Um, yeah, sometimes you get an account that just has so much junk in it, and you're just thinking, now, how did they remember all this? And I agree with you. I mean, you do have to be very wary of it.
You totally do. I mean, especially for somebody like yourself
Yeah.
who is having to deal with this on a daily basis. I mean, you can only edit so much
Yeah.
out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I try not to edit as much as possible. Sometimes if it's a really good account, there'll be something in there that I will take out, and I will tell them, I am not posting that. I mean, if you don't want me to remove it, then I'm just not going to post it. But, yeah, you like, again, you had to be very wary. I think we run into that more with abduction cases and otherworldly encounter cases as opposed to cryptid cases and paranormal
Right.
hauntings and such.
Do you
Um,
think do you think it's a difference of fear
it
between
could be, yeah, it could be. Um, the one thing that I run into, even people who work with me or work, that I know, when they do get an account, it does seem that people are very conscious of maybe saying too much,
Mhm.
and they get that fear that, well, if I say too much, maybe they'll come back. I've gotten that a lot with people with these Mothman cases in Chicago. I don't know if it's an imprint they get from the being or whatever, but it just seems that they do have that underlying fear that if they do say too much, these things may come back. And a lot of them ask me, they say, you've had a lot of these reports. Do people ever come back and tell you that they see it again or have an encounter again, and that they're fearful of, saying too much? And sure, I hear that all the time. People are very wary and fearful of the unknown. And I get that.
I mean, you're an experiencer yourself here.
Yeah.
Put them yourself in their shoes, and you read a report like that of somebody who's flown the craft, who sees another species of people on there, and is trying to communicate with them. I mean, you're as an experiencer, how do you react to that on a personal
Oh,
level?
I understand. You I've been fortunate enough to have several incidents personally that are unexplained or, you know, very unnormal, paranormal, whatever you want to say they are. But I get it. I've kind of heard it all at this point after all these years. But I do understand how people do feel, and I do understand when people are reluctant to come forward. Sometimes when somebody will it's funny. Sometimes somebody will contact you and you're talking to them and they're holding back on something. You just know they're holding back.
Well, let's talk about that fear of communication with it, because we've touched on it in the past, but we haven't really gone in depth.
Yeah.
Why would somebody reach out and not want to tell you the full story?
I don't know. Unless it was something so dramatic within the story that they want to hold back on. But I can usually tell if there's something being held back, and I will tell them. You don't have to tell me. I won't print or post anything that you don't want me to post. But I would like, for context, to know the whole story. And many times when we will take time to sit there and talk about it, I can usually get them to open up a little bit more. Again, I go back to what's going on in Chicago. I many times they will tell me something. They will tell me what they experienced. They won't embellish on it, but you can kind of tell there's something else going on, something else they saw or experienced that they're just holding back on. And I think my intuitive abilities come into play with something like that. And because many times I will be on a phone with somebody and something will flash in my mind's eye and I will blurt it out. And they will tell me, well, how you know that? I say, that, you know, that's just the way I am. I pick up on a lot of different things. And then they will open up. That does happen a lot with me.
What's the strangest thing that you've had happen in one of those situations?
Well, I don't know if it's strange, but I had a woman up in Toronto, actually, who had an encounter with what I assume was some type of otherworldly being. It wasn't an abduction, but when she was telling me about it, I could tell something was up. There was something she wasn't telling me. She was searching for answers as to why they would come into her bedroom or into her home and invade her privacy. And as a result, they were so fearful of it. And I just knew in this particular woman's case that something else had happened. And actually, after a couple of phone calls, she eventually told me that she was assaulted.
Wow.
So she did open up about it, you know.
That's incredible.
Yep, it does happen. I mean, I've had a few of them like that, but that one in particular, I do remember because she was just, I could just, you know, it's almost like she wants to tell you, but she's afraid to tell you. She doesn't want to be judged by me or anybody else about what she encountered, though, you know, she did take the time to contact me. And, you know, I guess that's just the way I am. I kind of dig into stuff and I pick up on a lot of different things. And many times I will ask them about that. You know, I'm pretty blunt about talking to witnesses and experiencers. And, you know, I tell them, don't be afraid to tell me, you know, if you don't want me to print it, fine. But I want an idea for context of what have actually happened. And maybe because of that, if there's anything that you want me to help you with, it's probably a lot easier for me to do that, or a lot better for me to do that. So yeah.
Well, it does make sense. It totally does make sense, as we got about 90 seconds to go here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Lon Strickler is here with us from phantomsandmonsters.com. Lon, does anything ever scare you anymore?
Well, I guess it probably would if the right thing popped up.
What scares you? Let me ask you, what scares you?
The unknown. Really, the unknown. You know, I am not a fan of horror. Quite frankly, I'm not a fan of horror movies or anything graphic or anything like that. I just never have been. It's not that I'm really scared. It's just that I sense so many different things. I hear so many different stories over the years. I'm not saying that I'm immune to it, and I'm not immune to it, but it almost gets to the point where if it's anything that graphic or I don't know, to the point where it's just a terrible experience, it's hard for me to listen to sometimes.
I can see that.
Yeah. I mean, after you do it, after you hear all these things over all these years, it can wear on you. You know, I have suffered from PTSD in the past for other things that have happened to me.
Yeah.
and I understand it. And I just don't necessarily want to go through that with something that somebody else has experienced, though I will try to help them as best I can.
And on that note, Lon, we're going to take a break here at the top
Sure.
of the hour. Lon Strickler from FoundSamantha.com will continue with another great story from his website on upright cryptid canines. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. A beautiful first hour, my friend. Beautiful first hour. We're going to turn things over to the dirty one.
Hi.
Break.
Secret moon-based nest listening.
There you go there, dirty.
No soliciting at the secret moon base, Lon. On top of that,
It's got to be on the dark side.
Yeah, it's not even underground. They just don't even try that on the moon.
Yeah.
It's like, screw it. And then I had this one from the other day. They finally released the photos of the supposed UFO that was shot down over Canada.
Oh.
And it looks like the Montreal Canadiens logo. So it's like,
it does look like the Canadians logo.
So
That's funny.
So I just kind of, and then it had the hanging piece from a 20-foot hanging piece or whatever. So I chuckled at that. The first thing I thought when I seen it, I went, yeah, it's a Habs logo.
You know what? Some of the UFO photos and videos that have been coming out lately are pretty interesting. I mean, more detailed and it just seemed to be more legit than a lot of ones we have seen over the years.
Yeah, they don't seem so janky.
Yeah, I mean,
or they always seem to do one where it's just all of a sudden shoots off or whatever.
Yeah,
but it seems like a lot of them now are like relatively clear, and it just kind of floats away or whatever.
And I don't think that has anything to do with AI or CGI or anything like that. I think people are actually seeing. Well, maybe the recording or the videotaping equipment is much better now than what it used to be. I don't know, but I think some of the sightings that I have seen in recently do seem to be pretty clear, and the explanation does seem to be very interesting too, as opposed to being an embellished type of sighting.
It seems like a lot more people are seeing it. Just your average normie people that have never really been into UFOs or anything. You go, hey,
I agree with you.
What do you think about this? I think people are looking out for that kind of stuff more because it seems to be in the news and everything, and everyone's more aware of it. It seems like.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does seem that people are much more aware of it. I don't know if that's by chance or if it's intentional, but yeah, it does seem a lot of people are picking up on a lot of different things for whatever reason. I think the general population, for whatever reason, is becoming more in tune to the paranormal or the unexplained as opposed to years ago. Now, I don't know if that's because of the internet and everything else influencing it, that or social media, but it just seems people are much more in tune or aware of different type of phenomena now. And I don't know how to explain that, but it just seems
maybe also, sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I also think that since it's becoming more popular, people that have had experiences aren't quite as afraid to say, hey, I seen these weird lights one time and I know what things look like where I live or whatever. And they're not afraid to be, no one's going to generally call you too much of a crazy these days when you talk about like a UFO, but 20 years ago is totally different.
Oh yeah. Yeah. People are much more open now to contact you or to contact me, with an experience they've had. like I said before, it's more mainstream. People don't seem to be, you used to get on, especially when the internet first started becoming popular and, getting on the forums and everything, and there's just less ridicule. And I think people were very wary of that. And I don't think it's that prevalent now. Of course, you get onto certain social media like Reddit in particular, you always got a bunch of clowns on there going to try to shoot everything down. But
that's true.
I think for the most part, I think people are very willing to come forward, which is great for us, about something they just can't explain.
All right.
Hi, Dave.
Hi there, Dirty. We got about a minute to go here. Thank you to Frankie, Richard, T-Bone, and right, for the great super chats tonight. Very thankful for the love and support. Mama Susan, how you doing? Anyone else come in here late? Nope. That's it. 35 seconds there, big guy.
Have a good night, everybody.
Mark Sanchez and his collection of Hawaiian shirts has arrived. Good night, Dirty Filth. And don't forget, if you want to shop at the Spaced Out Radio store, you can do so on our website. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out and go get your stuff today. Like T-Boat. Got a new hoodie today. All right, everybody. Here we go with our number 2. Here comes our number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Fortean. Fortean is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Lon Strickler in Strange Days continues here on the big show, as Lon is from phantomsandmonsters.com, joins us near the end of each month to talk about the monsters that are hiding among us. You can find all of his books at any major online network like Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or on his website, phantomsandmonsters.com. Lon, welcome back.
Glad to be back, Dave.
You got another story recently about bipedal canines in Pennsylvania. This is something that the late Butch Witkowski was very, very interested in for a number of years. I know you are too, and many of your teammates in the Pennsylvania area are looking for. Before we get into the story, maybe describe these creatures for us.
Well, I would say as far as what we're seeing around here in the Mid-Atlantic, Pennsylvania, Maryland and such, we get various descriptions. Many times the upright canine, cryptid canines usually have a very, very, very tall, very muscular, almost like the underworld lichens. That they're very humanoid, though many times they will have the hocked legs or the hocked ankles like a dog would have, but they are upright. Very rarely do you see them as a quadruped. And they're, people a lot of times will say, well, they're werewolves or they're, something like that. But, they are definitely bipedal. Then we have other ones that are quadrupeds that particularly around here, people described as looking hyena-like, though they're huge, very muscular, have the slope backs like a hyena, but many times the head is very similar to that of a wolf with a huge mane on it. Um, the speckled fur like that of a hyena. But for the most part, they can be upright, but for the most part, they are quadrupeds. So those are the two we kind of run into around here. There have been a few variations over the years, smaller ones and such, but for the most part, that's what I described as what we run into.
Well, let's get to this story here.
Okay.
All right. Now, this happened, I guess, in 2023. Story goes like this. My little brother and I walked around Washington, Pennsylvania one summer night last year. Washington is a little town in Pennsylvania. There really isn't much to do out here. He would be going to college next year, so I figured I'd do something nice and hang out with him before then. I'm self-employed, so I really don't have to worry about putting in for vacation or anything. We spent nearly all of the winter playing my old Xbox 360 games like Halo 3 until the wee hours of the morning. Now, I've been a fan of podcasts and YouTube videos where they talk about paranormal encounters, but I never imagined I'd have one myself. It was the night before Christmas. It was a picture-perfect Christmas, too. Fresh snow on the ground, all the houses decorated for Christmas, flickering lights on every roof, and inflatables in every yard. Everyone had the Christmas spirit that year. I don't think there was one house left under or undecorated. My little brother wanted to drive around and look at all the houses, so I agreed to drive him around and look at all the houses if that's what he wanted to do. So we get all bundled up in our winter clothes and pile into my pickup truck. Me in my big puffy winter coat, toboggan, scarf, and sweatpants, and him in a full set of under cold gear. I swear the little guy lives at the gym and loves to wear anything that shows off the gains. I even turned on the radio to some Christmas music for that extra spirit. We were just passing the nursing home in a town called the Grove at Washington, and I get this eerie feeling creep up my spine for some reason as we pass. I've heard stories from patients who've stayed there and even from workers who've worked there. Just a bad nursing home. It's in a toxic workplace. They can't keep nobody because they keep running people off, have inattentive staff. They can't and are way too short staffed. Maintenance is lacking too, I guess, as stuff is always breaking down. Back in 2020, they had part of the roof fall and trapped 4 residents who had to be rescued by firefighters. It was all over the news. Anyways, I digress. Well, we get down to the bottom of the hill, and the next thing I know is this 9-foot dark brown-haired creature that looks like a big super buff dogman looking thing on steroids. It bolts out from the woods and into the middle of the road in front of us. Its fur is all matted with snow, mud, sticks, and leaves. It's got this really nasty looking scar across its face and some smaller gnarly looking gashes across its chest. Its eyes are all bloodshot and red. It's baring its teeth, growling so loud we could hear it over the radio. This thing looks like it's not having a good day. I had to slam on the brakes to avoid hitting it. I tell you what, I feel like all the color in my body drained and that my eyes were about to bulge out of my skull Looney Tunes style the moment I saw this thing. My heart was ready to bust out of my chest with how fast it was beating. I couldn't do anything but grip the steering wheel tightly. My brother is in the passenger seat, just losing his mind and in absolute hysterics. He was in such hysterics, he was trying to hop in my seat and hug me as close to me as possible, as if he was as equally scared big sister could do anything. Well, this thing the whole time is just in the middle of the road, just looking at us intently. Eventually, it just got bored or whatever. It let out this horrendous howl that just chilled me right to the soul and ran off into some nearby backyards and into the night. It easily cleared every fence until we couldn't see it anymore. We both eventually calmed down enough somewhat to where we could continue our evening. But the whole time we were afraid of bumping into this thing again. Oh my goodness. that is a creep level of 10, Lon.
Well, it's in an area where we've had a lot of sightings. And in fact, I had a report approximately 2 miles from that location where that nursing home is about 3 or 4 years ago. That's Washington County, Pennsylvania. That southwest corner of Pennsylvania, you got Greene County and Washington County. They're southwest of Pittsburgh. But it's an area where there's a lot of cryptid activity, including Bigfoot as well. But we've had a lot of cryptid canine sightings in that area. And quite frankly, the description is very similar to some of that we get within the state. Very tall, muscular-like creature, very dark in color, bad attitude. Though they really they will hold their ground, but they very rarely even bluff charge or even seem like they're going to try to do something. But they let you know they're there. The howling is very unusual. We don't get a lot of that. But in this case, they did. So I don't know what the situation was. But yeah, it's very similar to some of the sightings we've had.
The accuracy, the vividness that she explained on this creature, the scratches on its face, on its chest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they must have been pretty close.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, they must have been very close. Though I've had witnesses that have gone into detail like that with other, cryptid canines and even Bigfoot. So, yeah, that's not really unusual. But the fact that it was in Washington County or down in that southwest area, yeah. A lot of people don't know about all what goes on down there, but the cryptid canine activity is pretty prevalent. And in fact, in southern Pennsylvania, east to west, along the border counties between Maryland, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania, is where we get most of our cryptid canine sightings, other than that Lake and Loop area that Butch used to talk about up in central Pennsylvania. But in my area and areas all along the border, for whatever reason, we do have a lot of cryptid canine sightings.
That area where this is happening,
Mm-hmm.
are these werewolves or are these something completely different?
I don't think they're werewolves. I mean, something of a human transforming into a wolf-like lycanthropy type creature. I think I do believe that these are natural beings, though. When I say natural, I'm not necessarily saying indigenous. They may be popping in and out through some type of passageway or portal or such. I think most cryptids do that for whatever reason. But there do seem to be specific areas where they are more seen. They're seen more. Now, of course, there could be indigenous population somewhere. I mean, if there is a population and they are breeding, yeah, I mean, then they're going to show up. People are going to see them. And I think that's what we're running into, especially there in southwest Pennsylvania. But I think that's going on here, too, because in this south central part of the state and down into Maryland, and I've told you about this, we have a fair amount of sightings of cryptid canines. And, I don't know exactly where they're coming from or their situation, but we do get a lot of sightings. And in fact, I think this was the 38th sighting that we've had in Pennsylvania reported to us since Butch and I started that. So, 38 sightings is something like a cryptid canine, especially an upright canine, is that's pretty heavy. I mean, that's a lot of sightings.
They all seem to have that same trait: walking bipedal, standing between 7 and 9 feet tall, very snarly, very angry. they seem to bare their teeth quite a bit when they're close to people,
Mhm.
and then they dash off as quickly as they came out of the roughage. There seems to be a lot of similarities with these stories.
Yeah, they don't hang around. I mean, but they don't attack either. They hold their ground, but they don't attack. I don't know of any attack that's been reported to us. Now, of course, there are rumors and such of people being attacked by these creatures, but quite frankly, I haven't talked to a witness who felt really threatened. I mean, I think the shock of seeing something like that is mostly what they experience. But like I've told you before, many times, we, especially in the game land areas here in Pennsylvania, and there's a lot of smaller game land areas where these things are seen at. People are armed in many cases, and they just back away. It's enough of a shock that first of all, this thing's big enough that they're afraid to take a shot at it, and what the circumstances will be if they do take a shot at it. So, yeah, I don't know if it's an infrasound thing, a psychic thing that they try to communicate with people. I think they do. I think some people do sense that they're trying to be communicated with and told to back away, and in most cases they will do that. Yeah, it's kind of par for the course for what we get. I mean, I know Butch told you about a lot of the sighting reports that he got, that he and I had worked on over the years, and all in all, it's pretty similar.
How come these things, in your opinion, act so tough and very violent, but they don't ever seem to attack? They never take that violence out on people.
I just think they want whoever it is out of their area. I think at the area, if they are in a specific, or say they're hunting or something like that, they don't want humans around, and I think that's the reason for it. I think if the situation was right, if they felt threatened, they'd come after someone. But I think for the most part, they won't do that. So, yeah, but like I've said before, I only know one instance where somebody had a bluff charge reported, but that was only a matter of steps and the thing would stop. And they felt threatened, but it was not to the point where, if they were armed or anything, they would have to feel like they had to protect themselves.
Are these things, do you think they're a natural creature, or do you think there's something more extraordinary to them?
I think they're corporeal. I think they're flesh and blood. But I do think they're supernatural. I think they have abilities. I think like most, and me, I think a lot of cryptids are supernatural. They have abilities to move in and out of either realms or dimensions and such. And I think for the most part, that's what we're running into here. With the canines in particular, because quite frankly, we don't really have any evidence to support that they're living here full time. We just don't find layers or anything like that, or any other evidence to show that they're constantly here, feeding here, or whatever. That just doesn't happen. Yeah, I think they're corporeal, but I think they have supernatural abilities that we just don't understand.
Let's drive on over to another story, because there are certain topics that kind of freak me out, and this is one of them. And this is from a long time ago. So explain to me what happened here about a goblin encounter in Ladrilla, Spain. One day at the end of February 1907, an entity dressed in tight, dark clothes with a little body and a disproportionately large head, according to Isaac Gutierrez, the priest who filed an official report on the matter, entered Ladrilla, Spain. It did not walk, it floated just above the ground, accompanied by two flying spheres that shone with an intensely bright light. Everybody who saw or heard the creature as it moved along the dusty village roads stared at it, first astonished, then frightened, running out of its path or into their houses and just shut the mysterious menace out. Jimenez against all odds, found a single living witness to this incident, 93-year-old Serafina Rubio. When asked whether she had seen the strange creature with her own eyes, she replied, "Yes, son, I did. I must have been 9 years old, and I remember everything as if it happened today. That person appeared on 3 consecutive days. It flew in, not very high up, followed by 2 powerful round lights. It hardly ever made a sound, but sometimes it shouted." Promptly to clarify that last sentence, the woman went on, "Yes, it shouted loudly. It was like, ooh-ah, ooh-ah," and it was really scary. People gathered in that little area down there, and we saw the way the demon floated over to that clump of trees opposite. On one occasion, it got really close to the cemetery. We were very afraid. We were all frightened of him. Then one day, he didn't come back again, and that's why the name Duende stuck. They say the priest got rid of him, that they ended up in a fight, but that's something I can't say. It was dressed in black, and it was really small, like a monkey. I was 9 years old, but I'll never be able to forget it. In Isaac Gutierrez's written report, he made special mention of the panic that gripped the community in the last week of February 1907. There wasn't a soul in the street at 7 o'clock in the evening. Men, women, and children left whatever they were doing and locked themselves in their homes, refusing even to go to church. As Iker Jimenez writes in his analysis of the case, this may well have been the motive that led the priest to bring the matter to the attention of the authorities. Missing church services was unheard of back then. Jimenez found several contemporary documents describing the event in Episcopal Archive in Caceres. One of these official papers described a close encounter that took place between a group of young children and a mysterious being. The document, whose authenticity is unquestionable, seems to prove that this being was not to be considered a harmless forest sprite or anything of the sort. It so happened that on one of the 3 aforesaid days, the priest and a multitude of frightened neighbors watched from the church door as one of the globes of light passed over the group of children. A 5-year-old girl among them inexplicably lost consciousness at that moment and fell to the ground. According to the document, the child, Marina Encarnacion Martin, became ill and died just a couple of days later on March 2nd, 1907. Despite efforts to save her, the cause of death was ruled as unknown. Man, 100 years ago, well, in this case, 117 years ago, and we're still getting weird cases like that, Lon.
Yeah, the Duende Goblin, little people cases and sightings and reports, for the most part, a lot of Spanish-speaking, Portuguese-speaking countries, for whatever reason, that's part of their lore, part of their legends and such. But we get a lot of reports. Now, that was Spain, which we don't get a lot of Duende reports out of, or Portugal. But we do get a lot of them in Mesoamerica, down into South America, Central America, and up into Mexico. The Duende phenomena is still pretty prevalent, and we do get a fair amount of reports. Now, I don't know if it's something that people are seeing that is natural, that they're interpreting as something supernatural. But you do hear a lot of Duende accounts, and I find them fascinating. I think it has a lot. I think also it kind of on the same lines as the Chupacabra reports, that we get out of Puerto Rico. It's something that's very prevalent there. What the nexus of these things are they extraterrestrial, or are they something else? We really don't know. But yeah, these Spanish-speaking, Portuguese-speaking nations do have a tendency to come up with some pretty interesting cases.
And on that note, we're going to get you to hold on right there, Lon, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Lon Strickler of phantomsofmonsters.com is our guest tonight. We have him for one more segment here on the Mighty SOR, and we love it when Lon is here. You can find his books on his website, phantomsofmonsters.com, or on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. We'll be right back with Strange Days.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
We are clear, my man. You having fun yet, Lon?
I'm always having fun.
Good. Good.
I try to have fun, let's put it that way.
That story scared the crap out of me. Man, you get some incredible stories.
I've been fortunate for people to contact me. I always say that, and I really mean that. I mean, I'm glad people trust me enough to come forward with, what they encounter and such.
One question from our audience I'll pose next for Mama Catherine. So when are you going on the road again into the forest?
When there's anything decent for me to go into the forest looking for. Right now, like I told you earlier, I mean, it just has been really dead for whatever reason. But like I said, I think it's going to pick up. Now I got a few local investigations to do yet, and we finished in fact, I think when I come back, I'm going to tell you about. We had a hotel investigation we did not far from here, and I wrote about it. But I come back next month, I'll tell you about it. I'll go into detail because I wrote a full report on it. Pretty interesting investigation. But I got a few conferences coming up and locally, nothing really distant, but I got a few things going on. I am booking though for next year. I mean, I've got a couple of people ever since that the Netflix thing came up. Now people are asking me to do a few things. So now my health is a lot better than what it was. I can probably do that, and I will do that.
Any more TV appearances?
Yeah, there's some irons in the fire. Quite frankly, I get producers contacting me all the time about doing shows and such, but I've gotten a lot pickier now, and quite frankly, people want something, especially small productions. They want everything for free, and they don't want to pay anything. And I've gotten to a point now, if I'm going to take the time to do it, it's going to be worth my while.
Yeah.
Especially if I got to go a distance to do it. That's what enamored me so much about the Unsolved Mysteries thing, because they treated us like kings. They really did. So,
the only thing I will do for free now is if it's a friend of mine.
Yeah, well, I'm the same way.
Like if you, like example here, if you called me up and you're like, "Hey, Dave, I need you. Would you mind doing this for me?" Absolutely. I wouldn't even think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I wouldn't worry about money or whatever. Just let's go to get this done for you. Because you're a friend. But any other production, I'm at that point now. I've been in the game too long where, you're not taking advantage of it where you're going to make money and I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I've been burned so many times. You'll go. I'll turn TV on, and this used to happen a lot. I will turn TV on, and I'll be watching a paranormal show, and one of my stories pops up, and I'm wondering why. These people got a lot of cojones to go ahead and put something like that without even telling me about it. But it happened, and there's not really much you can do about it.
Oh, I get you. We got 10 seconds. Thank you to Lala, T-Bone, Richard, and Frankie for the super chats. Greatly appreciate it. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, people. We do not have ugly swag. No ugly swag. So make sure you go get some today because we are going to, you're going to like it. Just that easy. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet. I want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Final time tonight, we say hello to Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com. And Lon, we love it that you could find your books anywhere. Where's the easiest place?
Amazon. It's the best place. Just, search my name and whatever's available will come up.
And there is quite a collection there for anybody to add to their library. That's for sure. Start off this half hour with a couple of questions from our audience. Let's go to Mama Catherine, who is asking, do you think cryptids could come from animals coming in contact with nuclear waste?
I assume it's possible. It's interesting, if you go into the Chernobyl zone, how many animals how many indigenous animals had changed to some degree because of, radiation and such. I think it's entirely possible. I don't know if we really have any examples of that actually happening, but, we all know the effects of radiation, and maybe something like that could happen.
Well, if you look at what happened in Chernobyl, and yes, it's not allegedly it's not going to be habitable for another, I think, 19,960 years or something like that. The animals have returned to that and really taken it over, but they've seen a real growth in the size of animals. Rabbits are double the size. Wolves are double the size.
Mm-hmm.
Everything just seems to be, extremely larger. And I could understand where Catherine is making her point on that, because it really is a little bit troublesome on how big some of these creatures are getting in these nuclear hazardous areas.
Yeah, I think environmental issues or environmental concerns can contribute to regular animals or indigenous animals to change to some degree. Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I mean, but again, until we get any real proof of that's actually happening, it's just all speculation at this point. But quite frankly, I can see it happening.
Wow. All right, one more. Let's go to Woo. Question for you, Lon. Do you ever get overwhelmed with the phenomena? If so, how do you reground yourself?
I think I've gotten so used to doing this every day for the past 45 plus years. And I've been doing it that long. being involved with the paranormal, being part of my life ever since I was younger. There are times when I will step back. That's no doubt. I mean, there are times when I just really feel like I'm drained and I need to, like you say, regroup or reground myself. Especially if I'm doing remote viewing cases and such, and working directly with people. But as far as what I do every day, yeah, I take a break once in a while. Maybe much less than what I used to, actually. I very rarely take a day off now, but there are times when I do need to step back and take a breather. But it can become overwhelming some points.
Let's go to another one from Gaspiracy. Lon, do you have any recent stories involving alien greys or the little goblin creatures that sometimes accompany them?
I get a lot of stories or a lot of accounts dealing with the supposed gray aliens. As I've explained in my book, Alien Disclosure, the encounters as time has gone on, in more recent years, it does seem to be one caveat that has, or one aspect of the phenomena that has kind of made itself more known now, is that very rarely, if someone has an encounter, particularly an abduction, that they're dealing with one being. They're dealing with a plethora of beings. I mean, even humans. There seems to be a lot of humans helping with these scenarios. Many times, an experiencer will tell me of 3, 4, 5 different types of beings that they encountered during an abduction, and that's becoming more and more part of the phenomenon now. Now, why that is, I don't know. Is there some type of confederation or some type of, are they helping each other for some reason? Sure, it very well could be. But I think very rarely will I get an encounter with one type of being, especially if it's an abduction. There's usually a whole group of these things involved with it.
Let's go to Blue Cruise. Have any of these dragon entity encounters ever communicated with the witnesses, breathed fire, ice, corrosive chemicals, or death rays? Have any dragon entities taken on a bipedal humanoid form?
We have had some dragon reports, but quite frankly, as far as what I have received over the years, are mostly in the air, flying to some point. I don't think I have any that have ever been seen on the ground or interacted with humans, other than flying close by or flying above them, even to the point where they feel the heat coming off those things or the air coming off the wings, that close. I've had several sightings, particularly in New Jersey, if you want to, for that New Jersey area, central New Jersey. For whatever reason, I don't know if it has to do with the Jersey Devil phenomenon or some of the other stuff that goes on in New Jersey in the Pine Barrens area. But I have gotten a lot of dragon reports out of New Jersey. But as far as having some type of physical contact, no, I just haven't gotten that.
Now, when you say dragons, what kind of dragons are we talking about here?
Your typical legendary dragon-like being, like you see on Game of Thrones and that type of dragon thing. I mean, people have seen some pretty interesting. In fact, I had a dragon sighting in Chicago through all this other stuff. So yeah, I do get dragon sightings, and many times the description of these so-called dragons are very similar to what people see in the fairy tales or in TV and other media. Is it just a perception thing? Possibly. Is it a thought form manifestation? Could be, but I do get them.
Very interesting. I don't know how I would react to seeing a dragon in the sky, my friend.
Yeah, that would be something interesting to me. I would really love to see something like that, quite frankly. But yeah, but I have had a few.
Captain K-Rod is asking, do you think pterodactyls are still alive, or are they flying through portals?
There's a lot of theories about the pterosaurs. We do get pterosaur sightings pretty regularly, maybe not as much as we used to. The central part of the United States, Midwest, from north to south, seems to be an area where we get a lot of pterosaur sightings, in particular up in the upper Midwest. We have had a few here in Pennsylvania. A lot of people like to refer to them just as thunderbirds, and they see a big flying creature. The first thing they say is a thunderbird, but a lot of them have been very descriptive as the large beak, the long beak, the spade tail, or a wing of a membrane type wing, very indicative of what a flying dinosaur would look like. But I will say that most of the sightings that we have received over time have been in the Midwest, particularly in the upper Midwest.
There is some, I've heard of reports in British Columbia that one First Nations reserve, and this is probably, oh goodness, 1,000 miles north of me, where they believe many of their people that have disappeared have been taken as pterodactyl food.
Well, I have had reports in British Columbia, and particularly on Vancouver Island, of huge pterodactyl-looking birds. Not necessarily as on the mainland, but in Vancouver Island, I had at least two, I think of. Huge birds, huge pterodactyl-looking type birds. Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, you know, I that Pacific Northwest area, it has a whole lot of, it's just not Bigfoot. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff that are being seen up there. You know, I send you reports occasionally from British Columbia stuff. Yeah, you know, and yeah, there's a lot of different things being seen up there.
Oh yeah, we got a weird one up here, my man. Let's go to J Truth Seeker, who is asking, have you ever come across any unicorn sighting reports?
Yeah, I have seen some reports that people swear that they saw a unicorn. I've seen so-called photographs of unicorns, especially coming out of the mountainous areas in Central Europe. I don't necessarily buy into the fact that these are natural creatures. I just haven't really seen any proof of it, but we've had a lot of people who have said that they've seen them, even satyrs or centaurs. We have a lot of satyr and centaur sightings as well, especially in the United States and in the mountainous areas out west, out in the Rocky Mountain area.
Centaurs? Are you kidding?
No. You want me to send you some centaur reports? Sure. We can talk about that anytime you want.
So for people who forget their Greek mythology, a centaur is a half horse, half human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, when you get creatures like a centaur or a thunderbird or something along, even dragons, do you think, and I'm not saying that people aren't seeing these things, Lon, but do you think they are getting a projection from a different time rather than seeing the physical creature?
I think time slips can actually occur. Yeah, I think it's entirely possible. I think people do see creatures that have not been on our Earth for hundreds of thousands of years that just somebody will see it pop up. And it may be very well be a time slip of some type of glitch in the matrix, or however you want to describe it. But we do get those type of reports. Absolutely.
What's your personal thought?
Personally,
Yeah.
I think for the most part, they're time slips.
That's what
I've heard enough time slip theories and time slip reports over the years to believe that people aren't making a lot of this up. They're seeing something. Now, the mechanism behind it, it's all conjecture, but quite frankly, I think it is entirely possible.
All right, let's go to Gary here. Is the Chicago Mothman the same species as the Point Pleasant one?
I don't think so. Their characteristics are different. Their physical characteristics are much different. They're not as aggressive as the Point Pleasant being. And quite frankly, the Point Pleasant Mothman had that moth-looking body style to it. The only thing in common as far as description goes is many of the sightings in both areas had the red eyes. But there have been variations on that as well. The Chicago Mothman, or what we call the Mothman, or I used to call the Chicago Phantom, for the most part have been wing structures like that of a gargoyle or a bat with the membrane wings. Now, they do have some decent size to them, but they're more humanoid looking and more emaciated looking than the Point Pleasant Mothman. So there are differences. Do they come from the same place? Now, that's another story. I think there's a very strong possibility that these are interdimensional beings, and they may very well come from the same place.
That's an interesting concept. Let's go to Captain K-Rod. Do you think geology or certain minerals will break out certain cryptids?
I think as far as unexplained paranormal activity, I think it does play a role. As far as cryptids go, I don't really know. There's nothing really there to make me believe that's the case. But areas high in quartz content, like granite and regular quartz and limestone areas, they seem to hold a lot of different types of unexplained activity, even cryptids. But I don't know if that's really related to it. Just like here in this area where I live in South Central Pennsylvania, and people who are familiar with Gettysburg, it's got a very high granite bedrock, structure to it. In fact, if you go to Gettysburg, you will see a lot of huge granite boulders all over the place. And that's because the bedrock is very near the surface. Now, does that have anything to do with what all the activity? It very well could. We have had examples of areas where there's a lot of quartz in limestone, even water as well, where there's a lot of activity. And Gettysburg is just always got something going on there.
What about gold? Areas with gold?
I don't know about that.
Because I know our area where I am is filled with gold.
Mm-hmm.
Fraser River is filled with gold. And in our area, we seem to get a lot of these cryptids and UFOs, aliens, ghosts, and they're wondering if it has anything to do with the gold as well.
It could, but I'm unaware of any of that. But yeah, I guess it probably could.
Well, there you go. Any black-eyed kid stories recently?
Very few. We do occasionally get one here and there, but not like we were getting 5, 6, 7 years ago. We were getting several a week at some point. Maybe they all grew up and turned into black-eyed adults and decided to hitch a ride. I don't know. but we don't get as many as we used to.
Where do you think
And go ahead.
Where do you think they went?
I don't know. There's a big question as to what they really are. I mean, are they extraterrestrial? Or are they some type of possessed human? Or who knows what they are? It's almost like the whole the crawler humanoid phenomena. We really don't know what that's all about. What the nexus of those are, where they come from, why they show up suddenly like they do. But no, the black-eyed kid phenomena, we get more black-eyed adults now than we do kids. So maybe, like I said, they're growing up. I don't know. But occasionally I will get one, but not like I used to.
So what is the difference between a black-eyed kid and a black-eyed adult?
They're just older, I guess. I don't know. I really don't know, Dave. But we do get a lot of black-eyed adults as opposed to kids now. I mean, used to be all kids before.
Are the situations the same?
Fairly similar. The characteristics are very similar. They have supernatural abilities to where they seem to move very fluidly without even walking sometime. Some people describe it as being able to float above a sidewalk or to move without even using their legs. Sometimes they seem to disappear and reappear quickly. Many times they seem to have some type of psychic abilities to them.
Mm-hmm.
Many times they hang out in groups. Very rarely we'll get just one, but we will get just one occasionally. But many times they do hang out together for whatever reason. The kids in particular, they always seem to want to get into a house for whatever reason. They say they want to use the phone or they need to use the bathroom or get a drink of water or do something like that. They're doing all they can to get into a house. I used to hear a lot of those. We don't hear a lot of those now anymore. But that used to be one of the main parts of the phenomena.
My goodness. We got about 2 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you. These black-eyed kids or these black-eyed adults now, are they considered more dangerous or are they just as prevalent as the black-eyed kids were, say, about 5-10 years ago? Or are they more seclusive?
I don't know if they're more seclusive, but there's less sighting reports. Less people are reporting them. Now, I don't think we've gotten to a point where people are so used to seeing them that they're just not reporting them. But we do have a lot less fewer number of sightings now that we used to have. In fact, a lot of the black-eyed people forums and such online have just shut down because people just aren't reporting things. And I've talked to a lot of investigators who have been involved with a lot of this, and they're just not getting reports as well. So maybe it's a phase thing. I don't know.
Could be a phase thing.
Could be a phase thing.
But do cryptids come and go?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to ever be a moot point, but we're always going to be dealing with something that people don't understand or that aren't part of what we consider as normal or indigenous or, something we see every day. They do come and go. Times we get very few reports, and there are times we get plagued with reports. It just depends for whatever reason. But, I'll be here working one day. I'll get 5, 6, 7 reports within an hour. It's like, what happened all of a sudden? I mean, talking about reports that had just happened the day before or that day. Then we'll go dry for weeks, months at a time. And it just, you can't plan on anything coming in. I'm just get enough things my way that I can keep the blog going.
You got that right. Well, Lon Strickler, thank you so much. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, Swamp Dweller. Then Tim James will join us for the UFO Report. Hour 3 is coming up next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Lon, thank you very much, my friend.
Okay.
Great. Appreciate you, my man.
No problem.
We'll chat soon, okay?
You okay? Take care. Talk to you
All right,
later.
buddy. Take care. Lon Strickler, everybody. The man, the myth, and the bearded legend all rolled into one. I'll be right back. If I can get up. Ow. Sorry about that. Hi, CS. How you doing? Thank you tonight to Lala, T-Bone, Richard, and Frankie for the amazing super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support, everybody. Great questions from our audience tonight. Thank you very much. There's little Timmy James. Let's bring him in early. Hi, Timmy.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Good. How are you feeling?
Like something that the cat dragged in.
I drove by your house today and I laughed at you. I pointed my finger at you.
And I could sense it. Thanks, pal.
2 days in a row.
Yeah, I thought you'd get out of your truck and run to the door, but yeah, obviously not.
No, I'm not running right now. Oh, hi, JBD. How you doing? Amy WC, how are you? All right, here we go, everybody. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight, the SOR Space Travelers Club. Fortean. Fortean is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Are you ready? Let's do it. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. This event took place back when I was in college and occurred way before there were things like cell phones. I was an undergraduate then and attended a school in the Appalachian Mountains. The school was in a small town, and I soon realized that the townies, that is people who grew up there, didn't care much for us students. I was a junior then, and it happened during a cold winter. I heard a story about a certain townie who frequented a popular bar called The Club. It was a place frequented by both students and townies. As the story goes, this guy comes out on a Saturday evening to pick fights with students. That past weekend, he had sat down at the table, uninvited, where a group of students were drinking beer. He just sat there, silent and unwelcome. Eventually, he grabbed the thigh of a male student. He then assaulted them when the student gripped him by the arm and told him to let them go. Supposedly, the students all had to go to the hospital due to injuries sustained during the beating. Being a townie, the owner didn't do anything about it either. The following Saturday night rolled around and I told my buddies to let's teach this jerk a lesson. My dad raised me not to be a victim and to look out for my friends. I played pool and poker to help myself through school, so I knew how to handle myself. Having heard the townie liked to punch his victims in the solar plexus, I got some magazines and taped them around my torso with a roll of electrical tape. I also got an empty Coke bottle and put it in my jacket pocket. I waited until around 10 p.m., then headed over to the bar, got a table, leaving one chair empty beside me. We were enjoying a cold pitcher of Pabst when one of my friends told me he was there. We made sure not to look at him and kept on drinking. Eventually, he came over and sat beside me in the empty chair. Casually, I turned to look at him and smiled. Sure enough, he immediately grabbed my leg. "Hey there, fella," he said, smiling. I looked at him smiling back as I took another sip of beer. He had a rugged grip on my thigh as he stared back at me, not saying a word. "Well, you certainly aren't a shy one," I said, and all my friends laughed. The bar had grown silent, Everyone around us was watching. I had a nice pinch of Copenhagen snuff between my cheek and gums. I spit it into one of his eyes, which caused him to close both of his eyes involuntarily. Immediately, I punched him in the throat as hard as I could, knocking the creep backward. He fell out of his seat, landing flat on his ass. "Take it outside," yelled the owner from behind the bar. We stepped out into the back alley, followed by the townie. His eyes blazed with anger, and he quickly came towards me. He took a swing, which I blocked as I pulled out the Coke bottle, gripping it by the neck. I swung back hard, landing a savage blow against his thick skull. It connected with a satisfying thud. His head snapped back, and he stumbled. I kicked his legs out from under him. Then we circled him and started kicking him with our steel-toed Doc Martens. He tried to get up, but we just kept kicking him as hard as we could, working up a good sweat. He must have tried not to yell or scream, but soon enough he started crying like a baby. This went on for quite a while until we eventually heard sirens approaching. "Let's go," I shouted, and we leaped out of there as fast as we could. Later, we were told an ambulance had come to the bar to cart off the unconscious townie on a stretcher. We didn't return to the club anytime soon again. One time the following year, I'm pretty sure I saw the townie sitting in a wheelchair beside the bar. He looked like him, but wasn't so big anymore and trembled a lot. He looked my way eventually and immediately broke eye contact. He never said one word either. Oh well, I thought. He had brought it on himself. There are consequences to your actions, I guess, but I do kind of feel bad.
Thank you to Swamp Dweller for another amazing story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller. We're going to bring him back on the show this month or next month or whatever month this October is. Yeah, we're going to enjoy him. I like Swamp Dweller. He's a good dude. Good dude. Got a great band called Burn Absolute if you like extreme heavy metal as well. Let's go to the UFO report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
All right, we got Tim James here in for the UFO report. Still not back healthy enough to be in studio, so we have to do this from his house. What's happening, my man?
Well, just living the dream. It's like, no, this sucks. I'm feeling better that I start ripping around and doing stuff, and yeah, oh, my energy's back. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's just momentary. It's fleeting.
You're missing some good hunting. You know that.
Shut up. I know. I see that. That's all I do is scroll X and Facebook and stuff. And oh, look, there's David Mark out in the snow. And oh, look at that. Oh, that's like,
what was with that snow stuff?
I don't know.
Let's just be honest. I mean, look, it's September. There is no need for snow in September. I don't care what the elevation is. There's no need for snow in September. At all.
No. Were you guys up on Timothy?
No, we were out by Snag Lake.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. And it even in the winter, when you're driving up there, if you're going to go ice fishing, it's the same thing. The snow and it is just phenomenally deep when you get out there. So weird.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
But at least you weren't there when I injured myself yesterday.
No. What, did Mark push you down a bank or something? Or
No. I told this story earlier, so for people just tuning in.
Oh, sorry.
Saw a chicken on the other side of a ditch. We were out behind Timothy.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this chicken where Mark's driving by. And the chickens have been sparse this year. Very sparse. So I see this chicken. And I'm like, I'm going to get it. I actually made eye contact with it.
Oh.
Right? So I hop out of the vehicle and got across this little ditch. There's a little knoll that it's on the other side of that knoll. So I sneak up to it. I'm looking, can't see it. Figure, you know what? It's right behind this knoll. So I go and step with my right foot onto the other side of the ditch. and then I go to push with my left foot to get the next step up. I've done it all before.
Yeah.
He says, "Hey, you're 51 years old." So my left knee locks, yet my momentum is all on the right side moving forward. And my foot slips, my right foot slips because my left one didn't move. And all of a sudden I hear in my left groin muscle. And I go down, and my beautiful pointy stick that I have hits the ground. I've got the safety off.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, okay, make sure it's not pointing anywhere. And immediately when I hit the ground, I felt that. I got that real sick feeling that there is something wrong. Like that just is not very correct.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude.
And I immediately, hey, at least I had the smarts to put the safety on my pointy stick.
Yes.
Okay, that was my first concern.
Yeah.
Which is which way is the pointy stick pointing?
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
Yeah. And so I immediately put my safety on, and struggled the rest of the evening.
Yeah, I'll bet. So is the Advil kicking in at all, or
I'll leave right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But came home, iced it all night, but everything's screwed up now. So I got to go see Dr. Phil tomorrow.
Ooh.
Yeah, see if he can put me back together. Because my shoulders are out, my elbow is out, my groin muscles are out. Oh, dude.
That's not fun.
I just threw everything out. And I'm like, come on. Like I was just starting to feel good too,
Yeah. Well, it's like, what happened to you? I sneezed. It's like, oh, my back. Yeah. But still, that sucks. And I mean, it's not just one thing. It's like everything just envelops and keeps growing. You fall and you hurt your groin, and then it's your neck and your shoulder and your back and your hips. And yeah, we're not young spring chickens anymore, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, I feel you there.
Mm-hmm.
There. That's not even funny anymore.
No.
Not even funny.
No.
Definitely
not. So
I just look at it like I did go back out today because it was.
Did you?
I did.
Good for you.
I did go back out today, and there was nothing out there. Saw a beautiful black bear. Saw a beautiful black bear, and I tried calling him over. He was probably 150 yards ahead of us, and I tried calling him over. I don't, just for people to know, I don't hunt for bears. I really love black bears. Like, I love black bears. Everything to do with black bears, I just love. Okay. And this guy's coat was so shiny. It's like he had a sparkle to him as he was running away. But he must have smelled that I wasn't wearing deodorant or something, because he took off fast. But he was a big bear, probably 250, 300 pounds.
Oh, that is nice.
Big boy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Oh, well, that's good. Well, get back on the horse, right?
Well, you know what? I remember when I was injured back when I used to fish a lot on the old Veta River there in the Lower Mainland. And the one thing that I knew was that an injury wasn't stopping me on one of my rare days off from going out there. So be damned if I was going to let an injury where I could barely walk go and stop me from going out in the wilderness. So I have certain rules, man. I have certain rules, and that's one of them.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, it sounded like an eventful weekend for you anyway.
Yeah. Hopefully next weekend you can join us.
Yes. God, I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, it just seems whatever. I hope so too. Yeah, I want to get out there.
All right.
So,
Let's get into the UFO report. I want to start off with the Lou Elizondo stuff.
oh yeah.
This is very, very interesting. He is getting raked over the coals on X right now.
Mhm.
Or, well, I'll let you explain.
Yeah, he is. It's just a free for all on Lou right now. He's a pinata, and everybody's just taking their turns on him. And I mean, have a look at it for yourself and whatever. I mean, I'm not going to explain everything, but there's a lot of haters out there, and lots of threats to his family, and yeah, it's ridiculous. And I think we've touched on this over the last couple of weeks. So we put out a statement, I guess this morning or this afternoon, whatever it was. And he said, in quote, "To both my friends and haters, we can agree to disagree, but the threat of violence and harassment is not acceptable on any level. Contrary to conspiracy theories, I do not condone this behavior directed at anyone." And then in all caps, he writes, "If disclosure fails, it's because the community has eaten itself." So Lou attributes the rampant harassment in his community by his fans to UFO disclosure failure. So I'm kind of a not a broad term, just a very cryptic term, and I think that just leads to a little bit of speculation as well. Like, you know, basically saying the rampant harassment is because of the UFO disclosure failure. Um, mm, I don't see that. I don't know how that would come into play besides just people knee jerking and lashing out at Lou. Like,
Well, I think what happened here, for people who don't follow the UFO drama on X,
mhm,
is that a few days previous, Elizondo posted a picture of one of his sycophants, because he does have a lot of people who think he's a deity.
mhm,
All right. And what he ended up doing was he ended up posting a picture with this person, and this person has allegedly been known to wreak a little havoc to the people who are on the anti-Elizondo side, from
mhm,
doxing to threats and everything. Now, once again, this is all alleged. Okay. And somebody I follow closely is John Greenwald from the blackvault.com. And he retweeted Elizondo's photo with this person. And he says, "My grandma once taught me when I was young and before she passed, you show me your friends and I will tell you who you are. This is downright shame to see. I stand by 100% that we need more people speaking out about the harassment of others in the UFO conversation, especially here on X, and especially by this guy." Check the comments if you don't believe me.
mhm,
Chumming with this guy shows zero interest in that by whomever posts a picture with him. We need action, congressional legislation written correctly, and movement of the needle by showing verifiable evidence and named witnesses when possible. Not worthless memes by a spineless coward, and especially the platforming of the aforementioned. I will continue reporting the truth as I find it, but I will also continue to point out the armpit of X that comes along with that ride. You'll see the memes that follow this post by this trash bucket, and so be it. But the spotlight of this little beer summit by someone who should be better than this speaks volumes. So basically, what Greenwald was saying is that, Lou Elizondo really has to, be careful, not be careful, but when you're in the public eye, people are always looking for something to gaslight.
true.
Okay. They are always looking for somebody or something to gaslight. And apparently, this person is not the friendliest of people on X that Elizondo is hanging out with. All right. So Greenwald goes on to say, "Sorry, Lou, but if you don't know why I posted this, you should pay attention more. If you don't know why, then you should double check what you're really trying to accomplish. Here's one of those times that you frequently referred to when we don't agree." Right?
Mm.
So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we do know that Elizondo has been caught in the past, and I'm not saying this to shame him, okay?
Right.
I'm not saying this to begrudge the man or anything like that, or the fact that it doesn't look like we're going to be interviewing him.
Mhm.
That's irrelevant. This is true fact. Okay, we do know that at one point he was using sock puppet accounts to promote himself and defend himself in conversation against others who were ripping him. We do know that there are a number of sycophants out there who believe that he is almost godly. They treat him like a Greek god
Mhm.
that has superpowers and that has the ability to how can you put it? Make this UFO thing happen.
Right.
We also have people out there that have taken a very personal a personal endeavor, and they've really made it about, how can we put it, um I guess what I'm trying to say here is that they have taken this story of UFOs and they made it personal. And
Right.
it's one of those things that we complain about the woke public out there, that you can't agree to disagree. You must attack,
Yeah.
and beat your way into the other person's way of thinking.
Mhm.
That has been very, very disappointing for a number of people, because there are people, and I think Lou Elizondo's a nice guy.
Right.
I do. I have no ill will towards him or anybody else really in this field. I mean, if you're not lying about your resume, then I really, don't have a problem with you.
Right.
I don't. And unfortunately, in our field, there's a lot of people who do lie on their resume to try and get television shows, to try and make themselves more popular and more credible than what they really are. But that being said, I have seen these attacks happen not only on X, but I've seen these people even try with us to try and get us into aha caught you moments, so that way we could all of a sudden be part of their attack.
Right.
Right? I have no skin in the game. My job, your job,
Mhm.
and our entire job at SOR is to report the facts of what's happening, not the headlines,
Right.
the facts of what's happening. And
Yeah.
that's what we strive to do. So the fact that Elizondo is, posting about, hanging out and having a beer with one of these people who has been not very kind to others on the internet, and I think I'm allegedly using that as a very open suggestion,
Mhm.
and I'm saying this to put my words or tread carefully here. Okay, he needs to be better. Elizondo needs to be better. It's like when you see politicians all of a sudden right before a campaign or an election, you see these photos all of a sudden pop up where they're posting with members of a motorcycle gang,
Yeah.
and everybody goes boom, and their heads explode.
Mhm.
I mean, that's kind of the scenario we're dealing with. Elizondo has to be better. Tim James, the UFO report continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
This is Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear. Errico says in an interview with Lou Elizondo, said Stephen Greer's group were terrorists, hinting that Greer's followers were violent. Strange. Who to believe? Elizondo said that on this show. That was my interview that he said that on. Yeah.
Cool.
He says, I don't negotiate with terrorists.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you get the big inflatable cushion for the chair?
Oh, no, my chair is
Nice.
cushiony enough. I'll tell you, though, it was an adventure carrying all my gear down the stairs.
Oh, I'll bet. No, thank you.
Yeah, that was an adventure.
Yeah. And they take forever to heal. I mean, I haven't like I think mine I did mine like 20 years ago. And I just remember it seemed to take forever. And then when it did heal, I'd be doing something and I'd go to move and it'd be like, there it is. It's like, okay, not quite ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
Got the old Sammy Sallow going on.
Groin injuries are not fun.
No. And I got to say, he probably, out of all the players that I can remember, he probably suffered the most with all the groin injuries he had, especially when he took that slap shot.
Dude, I was covering the team when all that was going on.
Oh, were you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of
was Sammy Sallow, nice guy.
Yeah.
But so overrated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had 100-mile-an-hour slap shot, but 1 in 50 pucks actually hit the net.
True.
Abbott Hoffman, how you doing? Oh, he was so overrated.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I have to agree. But yeah, when he wound up and when he lasered one, when he did, it was like, oh, man. Yeah, what a shot.
Well, that guy could shoot the puck.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an issue.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I think about who was it? Oh my gosh, I just lost his name. So Sallow getting hit, and then Heisman Trophy winner broke his leg. Football game, and it was and everybody that watched it. Can't remember off the top of my head. I think what's that?
Joe Theismann?
Yes, Joe Theismann. I think I'd rather have the Theismann than the Sallow injury, quite honestly.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. My World Series pick. Give me 2 seconds here. Who is my World Series pick?
Oh yeah, I guess it's that time of year. I'm not a baseball guy, so
I love baseball.
Yeah. No,
I'm sticking with my New York Yankees.
Oh.
Oh, you know it's a good show when Major Lee starts talking grifting again.
Uh-oh. I'm not looking at the chat.
There we go. Lou is fantastic on the Grandma Grifter Linda Moulton House show. Mm-hmm. People are allowed to make money, people. There is no such thing as grifting. People are allowed to make money. It's your choice whether or not you want to support that or not. But everyone's allowed to make money. That's a free society. That's what capitalism is all about. Here we go. Like 8 seconds. All right, here comes the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet called Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. We're on every major podcast network as well. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here's Tim James as we continue on with the UFO report. Where are we going next, Tim?
Yeah, just I ran across a few articles from a well, they're saying he's a whistleblower, but it's not really a whistleblowing thing. A retired U.S. Navy admiral talking about USOs, so obviously in the ocean, right? So story started off, a retired U.S. Navy admiral believes that the government should look to the oceans to help solve a mystery in the skies. Rear Admiral Timothy Gaudet, thank you, former oceanographer of the U.S. Navy, cited a 2019 sighting by a Navy warship as evidence that the phenomenon of UFOs and USOs are linked. The sighting recorded off the coast of San Diego involved a hovering spherical object that appeared to abruptly enter the water. Gaudet made the case for studying underwater UFOs, or what the government was calls whatever UAPs. So he put this in a paper. Beneath the surface, we may learn more about UAP by looking in the ocean. He wrote the transmedium USOs and UAPs, defined as unidentified objects that appear to travel both in atmosphere and water, jeopardize U.S. maritime security. The retired Rear Admiral made the case that the surveyed underwater realm is a threat to maritime security. The oceans form the bedrock of international trade and the American economy, and are where the U.S. Navy operates. So Gaudet argues that the lack of knowledge about undersea world poses hazards for submarines, such as collisions with other submarines, such as independent crashes of the submarines USS San Francisco and the USS Connecticut, both of which were incidents that resulted in severe damage to the ships and one crew fatality, and undetected underwater seamounts. So further study of this realm, he believes, could shed additional light on these UFO UAP sightings. So as he was referencing, excuse me, one incident, the Omaha incident, he pointed out in particular, July of 2019, the encounter between the Independence class littoral combat ship USS Omaha and so-called transmedium UAP. In the incident, the crew of the Omaha, sailing off the coast of San Diego, used their optical sensors, and there's a big fancy acronym for it, so I'm not going there, to record a spherical UAP hovering just over the surface of the Pacific Ocean. The sensors stabilized, and the turret built for maritime environments that includes a digital video camera, night vision camera, and laser rangefinder. So the video is recording of a screen showing the output of that rangefinder and all that sort of stuff. So the video appears to have been taken with a night vision camera, which uses imaging infrared to record objects in the darkness. So basically he goes along and he references there's sightings in Puerto Rico and elsewhere, like by U.S. custom agents, and there seems to be a lot of stuff. Now, we talked about it again, I think it was last week with about Sarah Gam. He's also saying that the videos that she says she saw about USOs are legit. He's reviewed them and saw them too. And he's basically saying that he's quite concerned that, everybody's looking up in the sky. We're not even exploring the ocean, and who's to say that that's not where they're coming from or that's not where they're at, because nobody's looking for them down there. So he's putting some emphasis on we should be actually researching the ocean a little more and having a look there, because things are associated. And he goes on, and there's a bunch of articles and papers that he's written that I was looking through, and quite interesting. So he says he's got proof. He's seen the videos. They're legit. The gatekeepers are saying they're not, obviously. So from there, like he says, we need to do it, and it's national security. Surprise. But yeah, he says the ocean is the back door that's basically been left unlocked, and nobody's watching the back door, right?
Well, I mean, look, we don't spend enough time looking in the ocean with what's going on. We don't.
No.
It's very, uncomfortable situation. And the people who have the technology to look into the ocean aren't regular citizens.
No.
They're people who are spending time out there. It's submariners. It's mariners in general. Right? You've cut down the population by millions.
Yeah.
In order to go through these USOs, man. Now, I'm not saying they aren't out there. The ocean, it would be the best place to hide.
Right?
Could be. And I've always wondered, like, remember the movie The Abyss?
Of course.
Back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a mothership miles wide and miles long hiding under the sea floor, and we would never know.
Nope.
And if somebody did know it was there, the likelihood of them telling us is slim to none.
Yeah, true.
Well, so, I mean, I don't know how we can go down there and actually even try and figure this portion out, other than the sightings that have been had prior.
Well, according to some of the other stuff, I was doing some follow-up reading because, it was interesting. And it's something that obviously that, for me, I haven't really looked into. It's always been in the sky and, the farmers reports and Air Force reports and all that sort of thing. But I found that quite interesting. And I was thinking along the same way, like, we haven't explored anything. So how do we not, how do we know that there's nothing down there? But apparently China has been pretty steady at doing that. They've kind of been leading the way quietly, so that they could, and been looking into the ocean and stuff like that, and coming up with technology to do that and trying to research into it. Obviously there isn't much there, but there is a lot of talk, just general talk about, yeah, we're doing this and we're looking into stuff, but we're not going to tell you what we're doing. And understandable, right? I mean, obviously it's not just about looking for USOs, I would suspect. I think it's just like any other country. It's technology that they're developing, as well as using the USO maybe as part of the portfolio, so to speak. So not sure. We're not sure.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm just not sure what will actually happen. I mean, are they there? Yes.
Yeah.
Are the sightings there? Yes. How much are we actually going to know about it? We don't know. Let's move on to the next one. What do you got for us, Tim?
All righty. So the next one is the way we always do it. This is This Week in UFO History. So this comes kind of a little bit closer in time. So this is 1980, September of 1980. So, and it happened in Rosedale, Victoria, Australia. So about 1 a.m. on a clear, calm, moonlit night, George Blackwell, 54, who was a farmhand and a caretaker, was awakened by a screeching whistle and the sound of cattle bellowing and a horse running around in panic. So looking out, he saw the cattle up in one corner of the paddock, and the horse was running in a circle in a small paddock. So he also saw an object with lights moving 8 to 10 feet above the ground. It was not illuminating the ground. So for about 2 minutes, still making a whistling sound, the object moved about, passing near a shed, a hedge, estimated about 500 feet away, and a silo. And it hovered for another minute over a water tank before settling onto the ground. So Blackwell dresses and runs out to his motorcycle and rode toward the landed object, which was continuing to make a really loud whistling sound. So stopping to open a gate, a disturbed cow that was frothing at the mouth came running through the gate and hid in an adjacent shed. So Blackwell continued along with his bike for another 40, 50 feet and then stopped about another 50 feet away from the object. So as Blackwell sat on his motorcycle, which was still running, his body, he said, felt like jelly, and he could not get any closer to the object because the noise intensity was just increasing. So the object consisted, his description, of two domes, a small white dome on top and a large orange dome with circular windows or lights, orange and blue, underneath the white dome. The height was estimated at about 15 feet and the diameter at about 26 feet. So after about 3 minutes, the noise started getting worse and increased and got louder. And this black tube appeared from around the base of the orange dome. The black tube seemed to inflate beyond the diameter of the object, and with a tremendous bang and a blast of air and heat, the object lifted up and moved away. Excuse me. The headlight on Blackwell's bike lit the base, and the black tube seemed to deflate towards the center of the base. Excuse me.
No problem.
Jeez. So towards the base, and 6 evenly spaced spokes were seen around the base. At 30 feet out and at an altitude of about 8 to 10 feet, the object became silent, and and a bunch of debris fell from the underside, and it disappeared going east. So the next day, a circular ring and other ground traces were found, and it wasn't pork or anything like that. But he says about 10,000 gallons of water were reportedly disappeared from the open-topped water tank over where the object was hovering. So a week after the event, the cattle, he says, were still having to be rounded up to the east and then at the end of the large paddock, and the stock would not go near the area where this craft had landed. So they whatever they could do, they'd stay away from it. So Blackwell also claimed to have suffered physiological effects, including reoccurring headaches for 7 to 8 days, as well as vomiting and diarrhea for the same period. No electromagnetic forces and effects were reported because the motorbike and its headlights were unaffected. But he said his watch would not run when he wore it for 3 days, although when he took it off, it would run. So it was, how did they put it? Sorry. When he reported it, the officials, and they had animal welfare and everything come out, and they had suggested that it was an anomaly caused by meteors, and they were throwing out everything. So, but they couldn't explain the burnt marks, of course, in the property where the thing had landed, and they couldn't explain the 10,000 gallons of water that disappeared out of his reservoir either. So, and there you have it.
Well, there you go. I mean, any type of these experiences are pretty crazy, man. I mean, the fact that you have somebody getting sick off of this is pretty incredible, because a lot of people don't report any type of symptoms afterwards after an encounter. So I find that very interesting indeed.
Yeah, it was just, the whole story was like, okay, cool. It just seemed more in depth, but this thing where, nobody wants, this is 1980 again, this is newer, so nobody ever seems to really want to put much stock into it. Like the big thing was they wanted an animal welfare person to come out and check on the farm animals and make sure that it wasn't obviously abuse or any of that sort of stuff. But it just, his story, yeah, no, you're just imagining it. We're worried about your cows and your sheep and your horses. And yeah, just seemed very strange, especially for 1980. I could see it in like the 50s or something, but yeah, who knows? It was just like, okay, whatever.
I could tell.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's the type of story, though, that I wish more people would report on.
Yeah.
We want to be able to see, or not see, because we're not going to see, but
No.
we want to be able to have more accounts of these type of encounters, that people are having some sort of physical interaction or physical result from that interaction with these beings, whatever it may be. Now, we know that it has been recorded before, probably the most famous one being Stefan Mikulik from the Falcon Lake incident in Manitoba.
Right.
That one is probably the most famous one, where he literally had radiation burns on his body that would pop up even well after the incident. Like they would go away, and then all of a sudden, it's like connect the dots on his chest again, and we got the physical attributes of what happened to his clothing. That's on the University of Winnipeg.
Right.
But I wish more people would kind of report on this, that this is what was happening to them.
Yeah, I agree, because it's the same thing. I mean, we hear the stories and stuff like that, but yeah, I always find that it's intriguing, and I mean, obviously, you don't wish it on anybody, but the lasting effects, not just mentally but physically, what happens to people. And you're right, people don't report about, or there's not a lot of reporting that goes on. They'll report that they had something happened in their backyard or when they were camping, what have you. But yeah, you don't really get a lot of reports about how it affected them physically, and that was interesting as well. So I was kind of, yeah, I was like, yes, that doesn't. The watch thing is kind of interesting too, because if you wearing your watch and it's not working, so obviously there was some sort of electromagnetic field that was interrupting, or something that was interrupting and his watch. But yeah, pretty interesting. Pretty interesting.
Well, I find it very interesting as well. As we got about 3.5 minutes
Yeah.
to go before we have to say goodnight for tonight. James Fox has a new documentary coming out on UFOs. What's your thoughts on this, as the Sizzler has been brought out?
Yeah, I watched the trailer, and it was kind of almost. I can't judge. I'm not trying to judge. I'm trying to choose carefully. It's almost the same old, just from the trailer. I mean, obviously I'm very uneducated and very, uninformed opinion, but it just seems like, ugh, okay. And you're getting a mixed review on both sides of the fence too. There's some people that are going, yeah, thank God, this is going to be awesome, and this is going to be the next step. Great. And there's other people that are slamming it already, and he's of this and calling him out. So you got the haters and you got the lovers, and yeah, I'm just, like I said, when I looked at the trailer, it was kind of like stock footage, Grush up in front of whatever, and yeah, I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. And there's not a lot of, there's some interviews that he's doing. Haven't watched any of the interviews yet, but yeah, don't know. We'll have to have a look at it and see what happens when it's released. And I don't think
James Fox does some incredible work. Let's be honest. He does some incredible work. He's very highly in tune with what is going on. He is very understanding about how to work his sources. We're also going to hear from Jason Sands in that, about his experience that he had, but Sands has kind of been all over the board on X regarding everything. So, I mean, we're going to see what it says about whistleblowers. I'm actually looking very forward to this one. I know James Fox has done a lot of work on it, and it's going to be absolutely great. But once again, the problem that I have with a lot of these documentaries, and this is no shot at James or his pending film that's coming out. Bring us something new. Bring us something new.
Yeah.
And that's what really, really gets to me is I want to see something new come out.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
James' work is great. Don't get me wrong. His work is great. But at what point it's kind of like if I go on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu
Mm-hmm.
and I go type in UFO documentary, if I choose 10 of those, 10 of them are going to have almost the exact same lineup of people.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have a culmination of certain stories with the same footage, with the same everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's so many brilliant minds out there. Can we find someone new who's credible, doesn't lie on their resumes?
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
Can we do that?
Let's hope. Like I said, it was the trailer, and trailers are made to draw attention. And like I said, I'm looking at it going, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And just like you said, same footage, same people, but again, independent and worked his butt off to do it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. There's no question.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think it's going to be great. Maybe we'll have to do it together and have a couple of beverages over that too.
Sounds like a plan, my friend.
Oh yeah. Hey Tim, big thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight and really pushing the envelope on the stories and everything. You do great work, my friend, and I hope you're feeling better soon. Because we got to get back in studio. Say goodnight to Tim. And hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Paul. Rock in the background with little brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work and home cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Elga, Facebook, Streamer, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X at #SpacedOutRadio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my friend,
make a mistake. We're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the little train has docked for the night. And soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Yo, yo.
Yo, yo.
What's happening?
When you feel lousy, you're tired, but then you're almost too tired to sleep. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna catch a couple of Z's on the couch here, and it's like, no.
Well, there's your problem right there.
Mm.
You're catching Z's, which are American, and when you're in Canada,
Zeds.
you're catching the Zeds.
Oh, I know. I'm just about as sharp as a sock full of soup right now. Like,
sock full of soup. The old sock full of soup trend, eh?
Yeah, that's it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, hopefully I could come up on Wednesday. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be good for Wednesday, so I can sit in there and make faces at you and shit stuff when you're on there.
I think it's funny that you just start a brand new gig.
Oh,
You don't even get one day in.
Nope. Hi, I'd like, do you guys do sick pay? Yeah, no. Yeah,
What a way to start your probation.
I know, right? I'll roll in tomorrow morning. Okay, so what's on the agenda? Oh, you work here? No.
Oh, that's just funny. That's just funny.
Yeah. God.
You must feel like crap for that.
I do. That's the thing. And it's funny because they'd hired somebody else basically, well, I think a day before I was hired. And this person's going to be doing basically the same job as I am. And I looked at one of the guys that was showing me how to work stuff. And I said, hey, where's whatever? And haven't seen them around at all. He goes, yeah, you probably will. I was like, oh, right? Why? What's going on? Oh, continually calling in sick. And I'm like, what? She's only been here for like, what? A day longer than I have? Yeah. And then what happens? I call in sick. I'm like, oh, dude.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Tim, you hold on.
Yep.
I'm going to say goodnight to everybody here on the show. And thank you to Lala, T-Bone, Richard, and Frankie for the great super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support. We'll be here tomorrow night with our guest. Oh, one second here. Who's our guest tomorrow night? Our guest tomorrow night will be... Oh, I'm in October. I already had him booked. Oh. Probably forgot about that one. Delete that one then. Hold on. In fact, Geraldine Orozco? No, that's not it. It will be Geraldine Orozco tomorrow night. What am I thinking?
I don't know.
What am I thinking? I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it is. I'm tired. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.